Today's the day. I apologize if any of you have been waiting for this video for quite some time, but I will show you how I turbocharged my 7M GE and the things that I did or the things that worked for me to help make this install a little bit easier. So hang around, it's gonna be a good one. All right, so if some of you guys are curious as to why the intro is a little different, the name of the channel is different, just watch my previous video. It's a little short one, just kind of explaining what is going to happen with future builds on this thing and just future builds in general. So check that out. I'm not gonna waste your time today with that. Today, I am finally going to pull this turbo off. You guys have seen in the other video, I do a little overview on this turbo, kind of my opinions as far as the quality of it. This has been sitting here ever since, and today's the day. I did mention that new turbo is water cooled, where this one is not. This is just an oil cooled diesel turbo. The other one is the GTX 3582R. So obviously here in Utah, we have antifreeze, coolant, all in one going through the radiator. So I've got to pick off of a coolant line that'll run to one side of the turbo and then back, circulate it through, which I have a really cool, easy way of doing this. I don't know if Toyota did this on purpose, but it worked out perfect. So I'm going to do a quick little time lapse of pulling this turbo off, and I'll go over the manifold and stuff with you and show you everything that I did to get this turbo to fit on here. So fits on there pretty nice. You guys can see, looks pretty good in the engine bay. Just a brief overview before I pull this thing off. This is the HY35, not the HX. The HY has a smaller turbine housing. Same exhaust bolt flange, 4-inch inlet, 2.5-inch out. And the turbo is connected to a T3 custom manifold. So it's got the 7M stainless steel flange with 4 T's, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 elbows. And then it's got just the T3 flange, you can see right there, with a 38mm wastegate with a straight dump. This setup's been pretty good to me. I haven't had any issues. I'm going to keep running it until I run something like a tubular manifold or something a little bit different, but until then, it's been just fine. So pulling this off, I've always got to do the downpipe, exhaust, intake, the intake tube thing there, oil lines, and then we should be good to go. I'll give you a better idea of what the turbo manifold looks like when I get everything removed. So here we go. It's brutal out here. It's like 101. I'm in my garage, so it's probably like 110. But I wanted to show you something really quick. It's probably good that I'm doing this. That is all oil. Let's see my thumb there. Which means the seals are going out. And I discovered all this in here. That's quite a bit of oil. That's awesome. I don't know about you, it's probably a good idea that I'm replacing this. Yep, we'll keep going. All right, that last little bit, kind of a pain there. Okay, so this is what we've got going on here. So, and yeah, a stud, that one always comes out for whatever reason, even though I torque it. So there's just my normal studs. I use these gaskets, just the thinner ones. If your manifold's not trued up, it's gonna leak. You can see I don't have any leaking around there. You can see where this like exhaust is on the gasket, but we're good, and we are going to just reuse that guy. Looks good. I mean, I know it's ideal to replace it, but I actually might I might have one, but okay. So down here on the GE block, not the GTE. The GTE has a different setup here. The GE has a little 1/8 NPT plug. I think the GTE has the same thing. I could be wrong. Someone will probably comment below and say. But yeah, so if you take this, or this is what I did. Take the 1/8 NPT out, and you put a 1/8 NPT to a -4 AN. That's an oil galley. You get good pressure there. I've been running my turbos off this forever. The other one on the GTE, it's got the drain and the feed in one thing. So, but that's what it is. 1/8 NPT to -4. That's what I've used here. And then it comes up to a 90. That's what just erupts around the turbo, goes on the top of the turbo there. For the drain, I'm using a -10. This is going to be replaced. I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using for that. And then it just goes into a 45 out of the oil pan. On the oil pan, there is a plug on the side. Don't make the same mistake I did. I used that plug and I put in a fitting. It's not big enough. Your oil is going to back up inside this thing. So unfortunately, the best way to go about this is to drill a hole in the oil pan and to weld on a bung. I did a bolt-on bung. I'll put a picture here. It basically sandwiches inside the oil pan. I just didn't have a way to weld aluminum at the time, so it just a sandwich in there. It's never come loose. This thing doesn't move. It's been fine. It doesn't leak. I am replacing this just because this line is going to be different size for the turbo I just took off versus the one that's going on there, and I'm going to try something a little different, so we'll see how that goes. For the dipstick tube for the 7M GE, this thing runs right where the turbo is going to sit. So this, it's a little loose. All it is pressed in. It doesn't leak, okay? It just presses into the block down there. I turned it a little bit. And then over here is my dipstick. And I modified just the handle. So the handle's just bent a little bit. So when I go to put this thing in, it sits out and around from the turbo. Yeah, it's a little hot. Like the turbo's sitting right here and this thing's like right next to it, but you can still get to it without the turbo being completely in the way. So I just kind of bent it kind of out, because like how it comes out is like this and then up. So I just kind of bent it around and then up. I did heat it, so when I bent it, I didn't run risk of breaking the metal. So I just kind of bowed it right there and then brought it up, and that's how it's been ever since. Then over here, I swapped this out. This is for the drain. I just took it off this turbo. Moved over to this one here. Got the plate on there. Got my gasket underneath there so the oil won't leak. And then this is what I'm going to do for the drain. So this is a push lock fitting. That's just going to go on there. Okay. And then I'm going to use this hose here. That just pushes onto here. Then that'll run down and that'll go onto right there. And that's the fitting that's just in the oil pan. So I pulled that off. This is what the old one looked like. So that came off the oil pan, up and around, and then to the bottom of the turbo there. Okay, and it's on there pretty good. I'm gonna have to rotate this a little bit down, and then this whole center cartridge needs to be rotated. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, there you go. Fits in there perfect. Looks pretty good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and we'll make this a two-part thing, and that way you guys can watch the next video and see what I do as far as all the water lines and stuff go. And yeah, should be pretty good. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Just kidding, that would have been super messed up. So before I dive into the coolant lines that'll hook into this area here, I'm going to hurry and just do that drain really fast. So I'm going to hurry and make that up real quick, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so there you go. I just straight up muscled that thing on there. I don't think it's ever going to come apart. So that end's going to come out of the turbo. And it's going to just go down the line, and then that's going to just go, I'm going to cut it here, and that's going to go into the oil pan. So pretty straightforward. So this portion will be kind of hard to see, but all I'm going to do is just kind of test fit this line right now, see where I need to cut. So all I'm going to do is just hook it onto the turbo, run it down, see where I need to cut the line, put the other fitting in, and oil drain is done. And then the last thing I forgot to mention was the O2 sensor. I'm just running the factory OBD1 O2 sensor. This will all be swapped out later when I do the full standalone stuff, but there it is. Straight dump. I might weld just a little tip on the end of this so it's not hitting the cross member, and we're about done, boys. So before you start the car up, if you're doing a new turbo, you've obviously got to prime it. So meaning that you just crank it over, just get oil into the center of the housing there. All I do on the 7M is on the GE. Just pull that center boot. Because I am running a distributor, that's what's going to send signal to the distributor from the coil pack to get it to fire. Right now what it'll do is it'll just turn over. By turning over, it's going to fire up the oil pump, and that's going to send oil to the turbo. And then once I crank it for a little bit, then we'll fire it up. Right, well, sounds pretty good. My neighbors are going to be pretty upset with me, but it won't be too long. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with the downpipe and just maybe merge that piece that I use, that little elbow, down onto the rest of that exhaust that I just pulled off that's behind the camera here. So once I do that and then do the pie cuts, it should be fine. Then I can run it through the regular exhaust. It'll still be pretty loud because I'm not running cats or mufflers, but at least it's not as loud as it was. So the last thing I'm going to go over real quick and then end this video is where to pick your water from. Now, water, coolant, whatever. And now this is only going to work, I believe, on the 7MGE. So the GTE, I don't know enough about it. The area where I'm pulling the coolant from is probably a little different on the GTE, but I'll show you on the GE what I'm doing and how I pull the water. Okay, so right here, you have a banjo fitting. This is the thermostat housing right here. You got a banjo fitting right here, and then it drops down, and there's like a little J hose right here, and then it goes to another banjo fitting that goes on the other side of the thermostat. So it's a thermostat bypass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bolt off, and I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to flip it around. So this hose will be on the other side. It'll go down through here. Then on the other one, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to flip it around. So that J part, that angle piece, will be running this way. So I'll just flip the banjo completely around, and then this piece that's going this way will go that way. And then that will go to one side of the turbo, then it'll come off the other side, and it'll go down and loop up and come to this side right here. So you'll have a hose on this side that'll just go down, up to one side, and then this side will come down and hook right onto the J. That'll complete the circuit. All you're doing, I say circuit, but all you're doing is just putting this in the middle of this. So the water will still make its way through. You're just adding this into here. Not a huge deal, but I'll show you right now. All right, just kidding. I wasn't gonna flip that around, but it's still super hot from just letting it idle. So I'll show you on another video when I get this all completely done. I'll show you how I run the water lines, but if you do it like that, you just flip the banjos, just flip them around. So, and then the way the hose is kind of bent, it'll run right between the distributor and the thermostat housing. It'll kind of drop down, and the other one will just point literally straight back to the turbo. So you just have two short pieces of hose. I mean, they're actually sitting right here. That's it. So they're not super long hoses. I made them a little bit longer because mine kind of dipped down a little bit, so but you can shorten them up. So, and I'd also suggest using banjo fittings, these guys right here, because the way that the turbo is set up, you can't put like fittings coming off the sides. So if you see, might be a little hard to see, but there's the one fitting right there. There's not a whole lot of room here to put a fitting in. So if you put the banjo on and then drop it just straight down and then underneath, if you put a straight fitting coming out, you're gonna have to like wrap it around or do an AN line or something, AN fitting that's gonna kind of give you a 90-degree angle. But the banjo is just such a tight fit inside here. Now with my manifold, I've got to do a banjo on this side too, because you do have a bolt right there, and the banjo's literally got to sit in that tiny little spot. So I suggest using banjos. If you're using a different turbo manifold, you might be okay. I don't know, but for my log manifold, my setup, banjo's the way to go. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed the video. New turbos are always a good time. I'll give you another review later on as I run the car, leave it on there, daily drive it, do whatever to get some heat cycle through it and everything. But it sounds pretty good. It spooled up pretty quick. You could hear the turbo spooling up through the exhaust, and that was just little revs. I mean, maybe 2,000 RPM, I don't know, around there, and you could hear it spooling up through the exhaust. So I'm excited to see what this thing does. But now that's done, on to some other things so I can get it tuned and get it running. So, but like always, hopefully you guys like this video. If you do, comment, subscribe, like, show us some love, okay? And we'll definitely crank out some new videos for you guys here in the next little while. So that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.